You see, physics is that one subject that will make you question your entire life. It's that one subject whereby you actually have to think in the exam. Like you have to apply your thinking, and sometimes you apply that thinking and you still get the questions wrong. Yeah, it's something else. So let's just hope that by the end of this video you would have gained something that's ultimately gonna help you get better at the subject. So the number one most important thing, before I even get to the things on like how you should practice and in ton, I feel like the most important thing that is very, very important the most important thing that I want us to do right now is self-reflection. I want you to take at least one test. It's now September. You've written multiple tests so far, so I need you to at least have one test and the memo and also the question paper itself. And it's very important. This is something that most people miss. I need you to look at the questions you got wrong and not just look at why you got them wrong, but it's very important to look at how you think in exam conditions. Because you know, one thing with physics, you will do your practice now, you will do your 5+ hours of practice, but when it gets to the exam room, you are there, you are sitting, it's a completely different thing. Your mind becomes it becomes different. So it's a thing here. I want you to see how you think in the exam, because there's something that most people miss. When they receive their results, they get so embarrassed, they put their paper away. But that mark that you are seeing there, that is something that you're gonna get again. Not necessarily again, but you know, the same method that you're applying to that question, you're gonna keep on applying it over and over, and you keep getting the questions wrong, which ultimately leads to you saying physics is difficult. So get that script, that paper that you once wrote, get the memo or the corrections that you once did. Not even understand why you got them wrong, but I want you to focus on what you write instead of the right answer, because that's what most people miss. They focus so much on what you should write. Okay, I'm just saying that it's very important to focus on how you think when you're in the exam. And the reason I feel like this is very important is because most people just overlook this, and I want you to think of it as, if that exact question was to be repeated again, if not even the exact question, the exact test, you see that previous physics test that you just wrote, exactly as it is, if it was to be repeated right now, would you get 100%? Would you get 100%? No, you would not. And mainly because you are still locking up yourself with the fact that physics is difficult. Even though you have the memo in front of you, you have people to explain, all you need is someone to give you a proper explanation on why your answer is wrong, not even on why the answer in the memo is like that, but first start focusing on why your answer is wrong, the answer that you are writing is wrong. And you getting that part of it, you'll be able to make sure that you don't repeat the same mistake, because I feel like that's one very, 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 very important thing. So in this whole thing, we're not only trying to like help you know how to write the right answer, but also know how to not write the answer that you think is right. Because in the exam, you always write something. Okay, sometimes you do skip the questions, but there are things that you write, and those things, most of the time, you're confident with your answers, even if you're not. But that's how you think at the moment. Even if you're not confident with that answer, that's how you think, and that's the same thinking that you're gonna keep applying as time goes on. So you need to identify yourself and reflect, or this is the type of person that I am. Before we even get to the part on how you practice, this is very important. And still also, while still on the whole thing of self-reflection, it's very, do I need to say self? It can just be reflection, reflection. I guess self-reflection. While we're still on that thing on self-reflection, it's very important to note, or at least like write down the sections that you know you struggle with. And right now we are approaching finals. This is something I want to talk about so much. It's very important. You need to identify those sections. That was so bad. You need to identify those sections that you know, or hey, this part I struggle with so much. I really don't know what's going on in electric circuits. I've been doing circuits since grade 10 till this day. So it's a thing now. Try and identify those sections, and now I'm just gonna quickly explain how to do the practicing, or rather how you practice those past papers. Because in actual fact, if we're being real, like physics is literally 10% theory and the rest is just you doing past papers. Because I don't even have to tell you, Hore, you need to do past papers in order to get good. You already know. This is something that you already know. It's something that you're already doing. But I just want to talk about the whole process of doing the past papers, because I feel like it's a concept that gets thrown around a lot, and people end up, you look at the question, you just get stuck, you don't know what's going on, and that's a problem now. Because I'm looking at the question, you said I should do past papers, I'm looking at a past paper, I don't understand, what do I do from here? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, boy.
So what I usually do, or what I used to do most of the time when it comes to practicing, I really encourage the whole idea of going back and forth until you're comfortable with the topic. And by back and forth, I'm talking about back and forth between either someone who explains to you physically or here on YouTube, going back and forth between that person and the past papers. So yes, you have your past papers that you have to practice, but obviously if you don't understand the past paper, then we are not going anywhere. I've been looking at the same question, and I ask someone to explain, I'm like, oh, and then I move on to another question, and then you think you did something when in actual fact I was just brushing. You were just brushing on top. So it's very important to do a back and forth. I'm primarily gonna use the example of YouTube, right? So on YouTube, with regards to the physics, like I said, we're now in September. Most of the topics you already have the basics. So I don't wanna really talk about how you should start from the basics. You know what I'm saying? Like, you already know your basics. So now we're at a point whereby we're trying to help ourselves to be able to answer the different types of questions that they pose to us in physics, because physics has a wide variety of questions. Unlike with maths is very limited. They do ask a variety of questions, but they are minimal. Like, most of the questions you can answer them, right? But with physics, they will ask you a new thing every single time. The calculations are calculate the mass of the man who is running while sitting down, like the most random things, and it's something new. You've never seen that in a past paper. So it's very important for you to use YouTube to watch other people do questions, and as soon as you're done watching that person do a particular type of question, go to your past papers and look for a question that is similar to that one, and do it yourself and see if you can apply the same method that he's applying. For example, if you watch a video here, maybe Kevin, or what are the other YouTubers? There's Mlungi Sinkosi, there's virtual tutorship, there's MV tutors. There are quite a number of them. Yeah, if you watch one of their videos, they're doing a question paper on electric circuits. They answer that question, the entire question, and then you look. As soon as you're done watching that question, don't think you understand how to answer that type of question. Go from, as soon as you're done watching that question, make sure that you take the time to look for a past paper that is similar to that question, even if it's 2 or 3 of them. you look for them, and then you try and answer those questions. And one thing that will happen sometimes is that you will find a past paper, you get the first one correct, you do everything, you get it correct, and then when you look for a second question, when you try and do that question, you get stuck. You just don't know what's going on. How do I do this question? You know what I'm saying? And this is a very tricky thing when it comes to studying. So it brings the whole idea of going back and forth. There are many YouTubers here that do the type of content of focusing on past papers. They do the past papers. Besides the basics, they also do a lot of questions. You look at those questions and try and understand what's going on. And also, it shouldn't only be YouTube. It's a thing of you finding someone. If you have access to your teacher at certain times, you can ask your teacher to explain ask the teacher to explain the concept one more time, explain this section one more time using this question paper. Don't just go to your teacher and say I don't understand electric circuits, and then what? Go there with a question. Go there having a question and saying, I don't understand how we calculate this type of question. Because at the end of the day, they're not going to ask you to write an essay on you explaining how you answer electric circuit questions. You need to be able to apply that information that they teach you in class. You need to apply it to questions. So approach your teacher with a thing, Yahore, help me know how to understand this type of question. And it shouldn't only be your teacher, it can be with your friends. Sit down with your friends and with the thing, Yahore, guys, let's do this question on electric circuits. And then when we do that question, it's a thing, Yahore, you get better, you gain knowledge, but then at the same time you are also hearing different explanations from different people. There's also another important thing. It's very important to hear different people explaining. So just try and implement those different methods, hear those different voices of people explaining, but then still don't neglect what I talked about at the beginning on how you should reflect first before we even get to the practicing. Start by reflecting on what you have done so far this year. We know it was bad, but then why was it bad? And okay, the English is not coming together, but I'm trying to say that what could you okay, let's leave it. So another thing that I also just wanted to quickly talk about that is very simple and often overlooked, it's the section on multiple choice questions. And this is one section that kills a lot of people, and we don't talk about it a lot. Like that section is like 20 marks. It's like 2 marks each question, so it's out of 20. People get a 4 out of 26, 6 out of 20 there in that section, and I used to be one of those people also. So it's a very tricky section. And when it comes to practicing that thing, I'm actually gonna have a separate video whereby I explain this in more detail. But then when it comes to the multiple choice section, it's very important for you to give it separate study sessions the same way you do your past papers. And it shouldn't be during like your exam season or things like you see right now, you don't have any upcoming physics test. There's no upcoming test. You just wrote or something, I'm assuming you just wrote your test. So take this time to just go through multiple choice questions and go through each and every one of them. But with this one, I highly recommend that you if you don't have someone to do them with, then at least have someone to do them with. I don't know what I'm saying, but I just want to say that it's better to do them with someone, at least one of your friends, because it's a thing that is very, very draining. Especially imagine you're getting 5 questions in a row wrong, all of them are wrong. Obviously you're gonna get demotivated and leave the whole thing. So it's a thing, Yahore, as you continue to tackle those questions, if you are with someone, you are able to come up with the explanation as to why that question is wrong or something like that. You get what I'm saying? So try and do something about that. And The only thing I can say with the multiple choice section is the fact that you should give it time. Give it your attention, give it your time as much as you give the other sections, and it shouldn't be during the time of your test, because if we are being honest, you don't practice the multiple choice section. You just leave it and focus on the questions when you have your test in 2 or 3 days. You don't do that. So during this period of time whereby you don't have any upcoming tests, try and focus on that multiple choice section and do the questions one by one, man. You don't have, no one is forcing you, you're not under pressure. It's multiple choice, A to D. You just close your eyes and pick one. If it's wrong, find out why it's wrong, instead of doing that guesswork when it's time for the exam. So sharp, I already talked about how you need to do back and forth between YouTube and past papers, right? It's very important to obviously do those past papers because they expose you to a wide variety of questions. And obviously it's also important to do as many past papers as possible, because they are the only way you will know how to solve a question. Yes, they might surprise you in the exam. You get a question that is not even related to the past papers, but then doing as many of those questions as possible and avoiding maybe your textbook or the notes that you are given in class or your class works or your homeworks. Don't practice using those things. Focus on the past papers and understand why each of those questions, the ones that you get wrong, understand why you get them wrong. The ones that you don't even know where to start, go to YouTube and seek a similar question or seek the concept. Basically, if you're doing electric circuits and you've been trying to practice that section and it just doesn't get in, okay, you've been trying to practice that section and it's not making sense. So try as much as possible to then you're gonna be chilling here on YouTube or have someone those smart people. So at least try and approach one of those people and ask them, Morejo, can you just explain this part of this question? There's also another very important thing. I think I just talked about this a few minutes ago. When you ask for help from someone, ask them with a question, like ask them with a past paper, having something in hand. What do you not understand in this section? Don't tell me you don't understand Newton's law or you don't understand what Newton's law is talking about. If you don't understand it, bring a question here so that I can explain to you why this question is asking you to calculate the mass of the object in Donintoni. Why this question on electric circuits is asking you to calculate the current, so that you can understand where it's coming from, and then you'll be able to apply that same method to a different question. Do not just leave it there. After you receive an explanation from somewhere, take that explanation and apply it to a different question and see if you actually understand. Don't just say and then you leave it there. You're like, I understand now. So take that information and put it to a different past paper and see if you actually understand that section. So this is the last thing that I just want to talk about. If you watch most of my videos, you'll notice that I talk a lot about breaking down concepts in a subject, right? So this here is just an example of me breaking down the topics in physics paper 1 grade 12, right? And after breaking down the concepts, what I did is that I rated them on a scale of 1 to 5, how much I am confident with the subject. So for example, if you look there, with Newton's law, I'm like 3.5 confident out of 5. But with something like electrodynamics, I understand almost nothing in that subject. So I really recommend that you do something like this, whereby you write down other topics and just try to rate them, and based on your rating, you're gonna try and improve each topic from the one with the lowest rating. So in this case, with me, I would have to start with electrodynamics, start working on electrodynamics until I get to a point whereby I at least understand something in electrodynamics, and then I move on to projectile and so on and so on. So I really recommend that you try something like this, and then I really hope it's something that helps you at the end of the day. So that brings me to the end of my video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to pray, and thank you.